too.
Because there's definitely pros and cons to signing up for the drink package.
Oh, wow. Well, so you have our Booze and Blues segment. Now, of course, listeners are getting to hear LaVelle and I prepping for this Chin Music show. We're revealed one of the many topics we'll get to today, but we will start with baseball before we get to cruises, drink packages, our Booze and Blues segment, everything else. The lineup for today's Chin Music show: LaVelle E. Neal III, Star Tribune columnist and baseball guru. I'm Jim Suhan from the Star Tribune and TalkNorth.com. This is TalkNorth.com. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios.
Scott for Aquarius Home Services, wishing you a warm and cozy Happy New Year. Not so cozy? Still relying on that furnace that's, well, not so reliable? Here's the fix for 2026. Enjoy no payments and no interest for 6 months on a new high-efficiency whole home heating and cooling system. Enjoy today and don't pay until this summer. Schedule your free estimate today at AquariusHomeservices.com. Financing based on credit approval. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended.
And we're presented to you by Onyx Maps and Onyx Hunt and Onyx Fish. We'll tell you more about them in a little bit. All right, let's start with some really big picture stuff. Okay, it's the holiday week. There's not a lot of news, fresh news, but we have the big topics sitting out there. And that is, once again, sounds like the Pohlads aren't going to spend money, and the Twins are going to be completely dependent on developing their own young players and maybe making a trade that we don't expect at the moment, because most of the better trades have been trades we didn't expect. I've been covering the team since 1993 in one guise or another. You've been covering the team since 1998 in one guise or another. You succeeded me as Star Tribune Twins beat writer. So we've seen a lot. We've seen horrible years. We've seen no hope years. We've seen rebuilding jobs that came to fruition. We've seen rebuilding jobs that failed. We've seen Terry Ryan have completely mixed bag of results trying to do this stuff. He was executive of the year number of years, or at least was up among the top executives for his ability to develop a farm system and produce winning teams on a budget. He also had, rebuilding projects that just didn't work because you're always dependent on young players. So as we enter the new year, LaVelle, what is your level of confidence or hope that this franchise in its current state can produce a winner from within?
Well, as we try to look ahead, let's look behind a little bit, because you pointed out that my first year in the beat was 1998.
One of the worst Twins teams ever.
Yes, it was. And because they had just traded Chuck Knobloch, because that I showed up in September 1997, right when all that trade discussion was going on, and I was calling George Steinbrenner, and 98 was when they had Bob Tewksbury, they had Greg Swindell, they had Otis Nixon. They had a bunch of just veteran guys, Ron Coomer, Steinbach.
That might have been was that an Alex Cole year, or was he later?
Alex Cole was before me. I never had Alex Cole.
Okay, I think Otis Nixon replaced Alex Cole, if I remember right.
Right. Yeah, I remember Nixon got kicked in the mouth by Felix Martinez of the Royals and broke his jaw. But anyway, that team was terrible. And Carpola looked at it and said, look, I had all these old guys. I'm paying these guys to lose 90-something games. I might as well, if I'm going to lose 90-something games, I might as well do it with cheaper players. So that's when he got the roster. So in 1999 and 2000, they played 18 rookies each year. But out of that mess came some beauty. Torrey Hunter, Jack Jones, Corey Koski, Don Minkevich, Luis Rivas, AJ Brzezinski. Yep, Christian Guzman. And
Eddie Guardado, Troy Hawkins.
Yes, the young Eddie Guardado, Troy Hawkins become forces in that bullpen.
Brad Radke.
Out of that mess came the teams that ended up dominating in the 2000s. So there was some short-term pain for long-term gain there. All right. Best case scenario for what the Twins are going through now, what the fans are enduring right now, is that they follow the same path. That there's short-term pain this year and maybe 2027. Well, there's going to be some pain in 2027 because we're all expecting a lockout or some sort of work stoppage. But coming out of that mess could be some long-term gain because they have some young players, position players in place here. Keishel, Royce, Lewis, who else? Matt Wallner. I'm missing a third guy. Who else? Brooks Lee. And plus a bevy of young pitching. The pitching staff, going into this year, the starting rotation going into this year is much better than what I faced in my first years in the Twins beat. When they finally went to the playoffs, they had Racky and Joe Mays. I can't remember who the third guy was.
Carlos Silva.
Yeah, Carlos Silva, and then Santana was coming around the corner there.
Boof Bonser started a playoff game for this team.
I know, Boof Bonser. Boof loved his Long Island iced teas, but that's another story.
How would you know that, LaVelle?
Well, you run it. Back in the day, that's when you used to run into players when you went out on the road.
All the time.
You don't see them anymore. So you had that rule: if you saw a player, you finish your drink and leave and let them be themselves. But it got to a point where they didn't give a crap as soon as they saw you in the bar. They come over to talk to you. But anyway, I digress. But the starting rotation, should be solid. When you can start with a Pablo Lopez, a Bailey Ober, and a Joe Ryan, you got a solid three. And you got all these other guys, Debbie Matthews and David Festa, and Nick Abel, and who's the kid they got from the Rays who has a live ass arm?
I was just looking up the 2001 Twins roster. Kyle Loesch and Eric Milton are also guys on that roster.
Because they got Milton in the Knobloch
trade. Yep,
that's right. So, they're going to have a very capable starting rotation going into this year. The key is going to be how the development of position players and figuring out the bullpen. And I think the bullpen is not. The Cole Sands right now will probably be the closer if the season started, but you're going to have. It looks like Marco Reyes is going to be converted to a reliever. You got Connor Prelip, who I just can't underplay how talented that left arm of his is. I think he'd be a fantastic reliever. The Twins may still try to make him a starter, but with all these arms they already have, I don't see why they would. So they're going to have a couple arms there. So it's not going to be. I don't know if they're going to cough up a lung like the 1998, 99, and 2000 Twins did, because I covered that 63, 97 to 1 team, that relied on Brent Gates starting like 110 games, and I was like, this can't get any worse than this. I don't know if the Twins are going to lose like 95 games next year. They got to start a rotation that's going to keep them in the games, and if you get these position players that you can start. You can start. I'm not saying they're going to be over 500. They're probably going to have to take some lumps this year as well. But I've seen what short-term pain can turn, how it can turn into long-term gain, and I think that can happen with this group.
Well, I think you hit on an interesting contrast there. When the Twins were trying to rebuild, the rebuilding really they played well the second half of the 93 season, or at least got it going, if I remember right. 94, they started off badly. They started playing well right before the lockout or the strike or whatever, the work stoppage.
Right.
And then 95, they come back and they're just bad, right? And so they trade away everything and they get nothing in return. And from then until, they traded for Milton and Radke had established himself and Joe May started emerging, they really had no starting pitching for like 5 years. They had none. Rich Robertson was the ace of the staff for a couple of years. They had nothing.
Wow.
That's what's different here. As bad as things seem to the average fan right now, and they are bad relatively, they have a lot of arms, and arms give you a chance, and arms also give you trading pieces, and affordable arms give you a chance to build a roster without needing a lot of money. So, and listen, I'll also admit this, when the news broke that they had, that Byron Buxton had waived his no trade clause, I saw an avalanche, right? I saw, okay, if Buxton's going to leave, then Joe Ryan's going to want to leave, then you're going to end up really rebuilding. And that hasn't happened yet. Maybe it could happen any day that they could trade Buxton and or Joe Ryan, but it hasn't happened yet. So let's not pretend it's imminent. Anyway, right. The bigger picture is they do have quality pitching. They have quality veteran pitching. They have a lot of pitching prospects with legit arms. That's not nothing, because when this team was truly horrifying, and that's 93 to 2000, they just had no pitching whatsoever.
No, they didn't. They definitely didn't. And I cover a lot of those guys. I saw Rob Bretlowski get a start. You saw, was it Matt Kinney getting starts?
Kinney. I will say Matt Kinney had decent stuff, at least.
But at the time.
At the time he did. I mean, and that's the thing. pitching, we all know the old line and we've heard it from Andy McPhail and every other general manager. You don't have 5 major league starting pitchers. You better have 10 really good prospects, right? And that's what the Twins are doing. They put themselves in a position where they can have a certain number of these guys fail and still have a major league rotation.
Right. I didn't mention Simeon Woods Richardson, who profiles as a solid number 5 guy. If Simeon's your number 5 guy, you're doing pretty good,
Yeah. Do you think he would be a candidate to transition to the bullpen if they're looking for bullpen arms?
Possibly. Possibly. You think about that. He touches about 93, maybe 94 his fastball. As a reliever, he add a couple more miles to that. Wouldn't have to worry about throwing all his pitches all the time. It could possibly work, And that's not out of the realm of that's not ridiculous to think about. There's Taj Bradley. That was the other guy I was thinking of.
Taj Bradley yes.
got in the Griffin Jacks trade. Who's got a live arm, but still has to figure out where it's going and what he can do with it. And you've got Mick Abel and the left-hander that they got from Toronto as part of the Louis Varland trade. Mm-hmm. He's got a lot of talent. He's close to the majors as well. And they got a couple guys in the minors who haven't made the debuts yet who could also factor in. So they've got options, and not crummy options either. They've got guys who are trending upward as prospects. In addition to, you've got 4 guys with solid starting experience in the majors. So
and you still have Festa and Zebby. So they have.
We can name 10 starters right now.
You can name 10 potential starters. 2 are going to get hurt. 3 are going to get hurt. 2 are just going to not be very good, and then you end up with 5 good major league starters, and that's kind of the goal.
Because a couple of years ago, it was just that we were looking at the Twins. I said, okay, I like their starting 5, but what if somebody gets injured? Because I think they only had 1 starter worth the damn in St. Paul, and after that, they're in trouble, and trouble came quick, and they struggled all year for the mound. And that this is totally the opposite case. And when you have good starting pitching, it could cover up for struggling offenses, but you got to be able to play passable defense and figure out ways to close games out. So if Derek Shelton could kind of figure this out and find a winning formula through all of this, there's a chance they're not going to be horse bleep this year. I'm not saying they have a winning season, but they have a chance of being mediocre. Let's just say that.
And I also think that it'll be really interesting to see what effect LaTroy Hawkins has on young pitchers. He has great perspective. He went through everything in the major leagues. He pitched for 20 teams for over 20 years. He's seen success. He's seen failure. He was a starter, a reliever, a setup man, a closer at times. He's been a coach and a mentor. It'll be really interesting to see if he can help some of these guys as well. Let's ask LaVelle next which of the young guys he thinks could end up in the bullpen, and could that be enough? And then we'll get to our booze and blues stuff. I do want to ask you, all you ice fisher people, have you checked out OnX Fish? The Fish app offers the most comprehensive fishing tool for increasing your success. Use the Fish app to find new places to fish and sort lakes by species, abundance, trophy, and keeper potential. OnX Fish also shows you hot spots, lake by lake regulations, and private and public land ownership information. Download OnX Fish on the App Store or go to onxmaps.com/fish to get more information about the app that is changing the game. So which young guys could you see ending up in this year's bullpen?
They called up Mick Abel late in the season. He had a couple of really rough outings, and they sent him back to to St. Paul to end the season. And I've heard him being mentioned as a candidate to be moved to the bullpen because he throws hard. He's got a decent secondary pitch, and he's the type of guy that can end up in the bullpen and sail. Marco Rea, I believe, worked out of the bullpen late in the season for St. Paul. I saw him pitch in spring training, and he's got a nice arm. I think he touched 97 on the gun. He's a right-hander, but he didn't know where it was going. I watched him walk the bases loaded and gets in all sorts of trouble, and it kind of flared up from time to time during the regular season. He did end up at St. Paul eventually, but he's got his fastball is like a 55 on the 70 scale. So on the 80 scale. So he's got stuff. And I've heard him mentioned as an option. And then once again, my personal favorite is the left-hander Connor Prelude. I used to, I had Derek Falvey laughing. I said, well, he's kind of like the Sasquatch of baseball. There's rumors of his sighting, but there's no hard evidence they actually exist. and Falvey laughed. And the thing was this, because he's had 2 double Tommy John surgeries and he's not been able to build up enough endurance to be on a starter's path here. I saw him 3 years ago, while I was back in the minor league section during spring training, and there were a bunch of scouts there, including former Twins spring training hero Mike Venafro, who had a 0 ERA.
Mike Venafro, wow.
Who 0 ERA in spring training and did not make the team. But he was, I think he's scouting for an Angels. Anyway, I said, why are these scouts here? Well, no one's ever seen Connor Pralip throw, and he's throwing today. So there was like 15 scouts for a minor league spring training game. So I stood there with him. I saw Pralip hit 97 on the gun. I saw this slider from hell. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy's got a live arm. I've been tracking his development, and he hasn't thrown 100 innings in the minor league season yet. And I think you like to increase the workload by about 20 to 30% each year. He hasn't even gotten 100 innings in a year. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, this guy's going to have to be in a bullpen guy. I think he has closer potential based on what I saw on the backfield in spring training in 3 years ago. I'm not going to back down. I'm not going to get off the soapbox here. I'm pro Connor Pralip, and I hope he gets a chance to shine in the bullpen.
Interesting. All right. We will continue talking about Twins developments, hopes, and we'll continue complaining when we see fit. But for today, our holiday edition of the show, and by the way, last week, if you didn't hear it, Roy, LaVelle, and I all told stories, kind of our favorite baseball stories. That was a lot of fun. And before that, we broke down more of the Pohlad ownership group. Go back in the archive at talknorth.com. You can find all those conversations. They're all still very relevant here. This, of course, is kind of a quick hit holiday show where I want to hear LaVelle's thoughts on the bullpen. We were going to talk about Royce Lewis, but that's such a big topic. Let's save him for next week, and we'll get deep into, what his chances are and just exactly how important he is to this franchise going forward. So we'll save Royce as a topic. But I had never been on a cruise, right?
Really?
Let's see, 13 years ago, I'd never been on a cruise. Started dating the woman who is now my wife, and she had cruised a lot as a child. She kind of knew the ropes. She really liked it. She's big into marine aquatics. She's a scuba diver. She's a scuba dive instructor. So she's into that whole world. I had never even thought I would ever want to get on a ship with 3 other people, much less go on a cruise. So she introduced me to the world of cruising. I really enjoyed it. I love the fact the ocean is always there, and the fact that you really kind of have to shut down and live in that world and not just be on your phone all the time or watching a game. So I really enjoyed it. And I love the fact also that you're always pulling into a cruise port, and if you like the island, you get off and do something there. If you don't like the island, you stay on the ship, whatever you want to do. There are just a lot of options. I also like the fact that because it is all inclusive, you don't have to pull out your wallet 18 times a day, which is what kind of gets me when you go like vacation in an American city or something like that. So I ended up really loving cruises. My wife and I still take them whenever we can, whenever her schedule dictates. You just went on a big cruise, and I think you have a topic you wanted to address.
Yeah. It was my first ever cruise. So I was going in eyes wide open. And I know how I was going to enjoy it. I ended up having a thrilling time. Yes, because you're on a boat and you're in that type of realm, you do end up shutting down. I made a point of watching NFL games. So other than that, I really didn't keep up with a lot of sports. I couldn't tell you what the Wild did or the Wolves did over the last couple of weeks. But since we shoved off a week ago Saturday, we had to go race to find a place to watch the Bears and the Packers game. And then there was football to watch. There was a sports bar on the cruise ship. And of course, the sports bar was not included on the all-inclusive part.
No, they get you.
That's where it got me a little bit. And I will tell you this too. The eating in the main dining hall was fine. The food was solid. I'm not saying it was the best food I ever had, but it wasn't bad either, but you could also go off the script as well and go to some other restaurants. And we did that a couple of times, because we went seafood one day and it was very good. It cost us like, it was 3 of us, me, my brother, and my sister. It was like ended up being $300, which I ended up paying because I'm the big brother. And 2 days later, we did a hibachi grill, which you can never go wrong with a hibachi grill. The presentation, the entertainment, they're singing while they're cooking. It's great. And the sake was warm, and my sister paid for that one. So, we went up script a lot of time, but most of the times we stuck with the main dining room and breakfast options. So pulling into ports pulling into St. Martin, that was the first stop on our cruise. And pulled in the morning. I wake up right after the ship docked, and so it was like 7:30 in the morning. And I wanted to be awake from when they arrived. And I just walking out and seeing that island and these beautiful mountains and these homes that are built inside these mountains, it was just a stunning, stunning view. And it was wonderful. And we did take a tour of St. Martin, just to, check out its history. Some of these people actually own mountains that live on them. People have houses built on mountains in St. Martin they own the mountain. So Get Off My Mountain does exist, Now the people there, they were a little irritated by our presence. That's the one thing that was concerning about the St. Martin people. St. Thomas people, happy to see us. Nassau, our third stop, loved us, but that was weird. So the part I'm getting to is the booze and blues part of this is getting the drink package. I didn't run into anyone who did not have the drink package, okay? Because my brother was staying in the same stateroom with me, they have a rule that if one person gets a drink package, the other one has to get it too, because they don't want someone glomming off the other person, And so even though my brother, if he has more than 2 beers a day, that's like a deluge for him. I had to buy his drink package, so just so I could have it. There are definitely pros and cons to having the drink package. The one reason I decided to get the package is because Buffalo Trace bourbon was included in the package. So I will tell you this, Jim, by the third day, there's 3 different bars that I would hit. There was a bar in the 15th deck, which allowed for cigar smoking. There was one at the bar called the Solarium where it was 18 and over. And there was a bar at the casino that was on the 4th deck. By the third day, they would see me approaching the bar and go, Buffalo Trace, 2 cubes of ice. Yes, remember. So let's just say I took advantage of the drink package as much as I could. And they kept bringing out bottles once they got empty, And the great thing, too, is that regardless of what we did, if we did an excursion, if we were together, if we checked out, some activities on the boat, by the end of the day, my sister and brother were not night owls. So by 11 o'clock, they were out. And some of the greatest times was just sitting on that deck at 1 o'clock in the morning with a Buffalo Trace and a cigar and listening to the boat cruise through the water. And it was serene. It was peaceful. It allowed me to unplug, detach, whatever word you want to use for getting away from it all. That's what I was able to do. So we're already planning another trip next year because we had a blast on this one.
Good for you. We're going back to the Greek islands and Italy this summer. We did that cruise a couple of years ago, and we're bringing a couple of friends with us because it was so spectacular this time. I'm not going to say cruising's for everybody. I also think the drink package is purely a personal preference, depending on how much you drink and whether you want to think about paying for every drink or whether you want to just not have to think about it. That's a complete preference. What I will say is the ocean part and the islands and especially if you pick an itinerary where you're going cool places, there's just nothing like it. And so I don't know if you don't necessarily need to upgrade to the drink package, depending on your preferences. If you can get at least a small balcony to be able to sit on your own balcony and look out over the ocean whenever you want is pretty cool.
Yep, I would agree with that. Getting a balcony so you can sit out there. My friends are joking, don't fall off the boat, LaVelle. I'm not going to fall. I'm not going to fall off the boat because first of all, that's a long fall.
It is.
Because we're on the 10th deck. Falling 10 decks down into the water is a long way down.
Not recommended.
No, not recommended at all. So, I'm not saying I had like 15 drinks a day. I probably had a few drinks a day and enjoyed myself. Now I have a glass of wine with dinner, So staff was great, friendly, helpful. Remember your names after a couple of days. It's really impressive. I looked up because the boat was called Symphony of the Seas by Royal Caribbean, and the boat cost $1.2 billion to make. And I was like, well, how often you guys go out? Oh, we're going out as soon as we dock. I said, well, how many how many weeks a year does it go out? Probably 50 out of 52. I was like, my God. It holds up to 6,000.
They make a lot of money.
It holds up to 6,000 people. They're going out 50 times a year. I know they have like 2,200 workers on each boat.
Mm-hmm.
But my God, they're pulling in. The revenue's got to be ridiculous. And once you get through 2 or 3 years, that boat's paid for. And now, it's just profit. So I see how these cruise liners I see how this industry can thrive, man. So
yeah,
it was quite an experience. Very enjoyable. So I don't know where we're going for our next cruise. We may want to make sure we have all the Caribbean covered. We're thinking about doing Curacao and Aruba next time. And
Curaçao's cool. I've been there. Aruba's cool. If you ever get close to St. Bart's, take the ferry, go to St. Bart's, and go to the little beach where Jimmy Buffett wrote Margaritaville. It's just beautiful. Now, St. Bart's is for rich people. It's not for people like me and you, but it's worth it, like spending one afternoon there, because it's the purest white sand beach. It's absolutely clear water. There's a little bar up on the hill, and that's where Jimmy Buffett, had the experience that led him to write Margaritaville. So that was one of the highlights for me. I would never be able to afford spending a night on St. Bart's, but for an afternoon, it was a blast.
Right. Yeah. And I do regret, because when we stopped in Nassau, we had qualified, since we bought the drink package, we're able to go to the Royal Caribbean has their own beach. So we went to the beach club, hung out there during the day, and we missed out on, there's a James Bond themed tour. Since you're in Nassau, because Sean Connery loved Nassau, and several of his films were done there. And we missed out on that part. So we may just go back to Nassau just to take part of that excursion next time.
Well, this wraps up another show of nothing but diehard baseball talk. We never get off topic. We never talk about anything other than baseball. Hey, we appreciate you listening. Thanks so much. Thanks for helping make TalkNorth.com a success. We really do appreciate it. Check out the website. You'll see we have the best people in town on every sport. Check out Don Mitchell's show, Mark Rosen's show, and Russo on hockey, Krasinski on basketball, Roy and LaVelle on baseball. It's great stuff, and I appreciate everybody who's made this what it is, including LaVelle. So Happy New Year to LaVelle, Happy New Year to everybody else, and we will talk to you next week.